So I want to wrap up 5.3 that we started yesterday. So if you have your unit circle out, we're going to put it up. All right, so if you have your unit circle out, we're going to put it up. And we're going to get this three-step process to be able to do sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent of any of the angles that are going to be on our unit circle. Okay? So first step, we're going to find the reference angle. Okay? I'm going to denote this with an alpha. So what we've been doing, same way we've been finding it. So we like radians on this because we have that shortcut. You're going to have some that are in degrees, and it's still, this reference angle is just going to be the distance from the angle I give you to the x-axis. All right? So no matter what quadrant you're in, that's where I'm trying to get to. Second up, I want to evaluate the function at the reference angle. Well, we had that really sweet sine, cosine, tangent table, right? For pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3. And then we had sine, cosine, and tangent. I'm gonna abbreviate those. Well, we got to add tangent. I'm sorry. And this happens to be the week of the Stoddard County Tournament. Would you look at that?
Wow.
All right. And someone help me. How do you remember what goes where? Okay, it goes 1, 2, 3, going down. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 2, 1. Seems like we had fractions in there.
Yeah, we did. They're all over 2.
All over 2, I agree. And is there anything else you want to add to this? Take the square root of every numerator. That's just an easy way to remember it. So square root of 1 is 1. All right. Yeah, square root of 1 is 1. So we're good with that part. I have students in 6th hour that they said they're just done complete with the unit circle, that they're doing this every time. All right. And so yesterday when I would taught the lesson, they had this table out. Okay. Now we've got to get our hands on this very right side over here. Okay. And I'm just going to use my quotient identity that says sine divided by cosine's tangent. Same thing we did yesterday. So this first one here is going to be tricky. So it's going to be 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. Okay. Yesterday we saw where the 2's canceled, right? Because I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And it gives me 1 over square root of 3. And I want to rationalize it. And it goes here. Now you guys did one by yourselves yesterday where you did square root of 2 divided by square root of 2. So this is 1. That's going to be 1 every time. For any time we have a pi over 4 and we're dealing with a tangent, we get to deal with a 1 or a negative 1. Okay. What about this bottom right here? Square root of 3. So we expanded our table just a little bit. And actually, we're done with the table now. So this full table is going to be the first thing I want to put on my homework tonight so I can have it for my quiz on Monday and on the test in a couple of weeks. Okay. So step 2, that's a little bit tedious, is writing down that table, but it's going to get me through a ton of problems on my quiz and my test. Step 3, I want to fix the value from number 2 with the appropriate sign based on what quadrant the original angle lies in. What are we trying to say there? That all strippers take cash, absolutely. We're just going to look and see what quadrant we lie in. And we will have some today that are cosecant and cotangent and secant. They will follow their reciprocal function. So if we're dealing with cosecant, I'm going to be looking for it to be positive in the sine quadrant. If I'm dealing with secant, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to be looking for it to be positive in the 4th quadrant, or the 1st quadrant, I guess, and so forth. Okay? So you have to know those reciprocals still that we've been hitting on. Okay. I really should have, see if this whole thing works. It does. Let's put that up there. So I'm wanting to find all the 6 trig functions of t equals -7 pi over 6. I agree. Let's add 2 pi to this. Let's get something that we're more familiar with that's in that first revolution on the unit circle, something between 0 and 2 pi. So I like what Jonathan said. We want to add 2 pi to this. I have to do it twice. So if I add 2 pi to this, that'd be like 1 pi, wouldn't it? So common denominator tells me it's 12 pi over 6. That'd be 5 pi over 6. And this one happens to want all 6 trig functions. Same thing we did yesterday, but we're going to do it without the unit circle to kind of warm up for today's problems. So I'm going to have sine of negative 7 pi over 6. Cosine. Tangent. Cosecant. Secant. And cotangent. Now, like we did on the last problem yesterday, I'm afraid I'm going to mess up some signs, forget to put some in there. So I'm going to go ahead and mark everything that's supposed to be negative. What else is supposed to be negative? Well, where is 5 pi over 6? Top left. It's in the sine quadrant, right? So sine and its reciprocal are going to be the only thing that's positive in this whole problem. That means everything else is going to be negative. Okay. So what is my reference angle? And again, I'm just basing everything off of this 5 pi over 6. It's a lot easier. So what's my reference angle? Pi over 6. So watch this. All I got to do is come over to my table, come over to my pi over 6 line, and so sine is 1/2. Cosine is square root of 3 over 2. It's going to be negative. I already got the negatives figured out, where all the negatives go. And then tangent is going to be the square root of 3 over 3. Everybody see how this table is helpful? All right, cosecant. Anybody want to take a stab at cosecant? It's 2. I'm just going to do reciprocals all the way down. I'm running a little bit short on room, so whenever I flip the square root of 3 over 2, it gives me 2 over the square root of 3. Rationalize lands me here. What if what about square root of 3 over 3 whenever I flip it? 3's cancel out. I'm left with what? Square root of 3. Awesome. So we found all 6 of the values. I'm not going to ask for all 6 of the values very much. I'm going to be asking just for bits and pieces. Questions on this? Let's practice this some more. I want to word it a little bit different, though. A little bit more useful for what we're going to do this semester. So, Jonathan, give me your favorite trig function that's not sine or cosine. Okay. Andrew, give me one of the values on the unit circle. One of the special values. The angles. Ooh, 11 fibers. All right, this is going to be a little bit different today. Got a little bit of extra thinking to do on this, on part of it, okay? So step 1, I want to find my reference angle. 5 or 6, I agree. Step 2, I want to find I want to use my table. So I'm going to find secant over here. No one said for sine. So which one over here is going to help me? Cosine. So what I do is I mark this out, and I just think of it as cosine of 11 pi over 6 for a while. Okay? So I'm just going down. I'm going to do cosine of this pi over 6. Cosine pi over 6. Give me that square root of 3 over 2. Now, step 3, I want to affix it with the appropriate sign. All right, so 11 pi over 6 is in which quadrant? I still have people saying, well, pi over 6, I'm landing in the first quadrant every time. And you will if you're using your reference angle. So I want to go back and use this 11 pi over 6. Which quadrant does it land in? Lands in the cash quadrant. What's the only thing that's positive in the cash quadrant? Cosine and secant. So I actually want to leave this one positive. Okay. Now that's cosine. So I'm just going to need to flip it to get my correct answer to secant and then rationalize. Okay. It's going to take some practice on knowing when to flip it, when not to flip it. If it's not sine, cosine, or tangent that I'm getting a value off this table, I'm going to have to flip that value. Let's try it again. I want to do one this time. I'm going to do tangent of 225 degrees. Oop. Use it. Hey, I have people that are just switching this to radians every time because that reference angle is a lot easier to find. So you're more than welcome to multiply this by pi over 180, switch it to radians. You guys want to do that? Okay, so I agree. So this is going to be the same as tangent of 5 pi over 4. I like that. That's a lot easier to find the reference angle on. What is my reference angle? Pi over 4. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. Here's my list of reference angles I'm going to get. If I don't get one of these, we'll deal with that in a minute. But pi over 4, right here. I go to my tangent column. It is 1. So my value is going to be 1 from step 2. Step 3, I need to affix it with the appropriate sign. What quadrant is 5 pi over 4 in? It's in the T, the take quadrant. What's positive there? Well, tangent is. So I do want a positive 1 on that answer. It's a box one. So, yeah, it's a coin slot. Let's have you guys try one. I want to do cotangent 2 pi over 3. You and your pod buddies, you guys try this one. Okay, so what, did you guys mark out cotangent and work with tangent?
I didn't mark it out, but I worked.
Yeah, let's talk about, let's see if we just don't mark it out. If we want to go ahead and take care of the flipping up front. Okay, so I'm looking at pi over 3. That's my reference angle. Okay. And then which one of these is going to be the reciprocal of tangent? Or cotangent? Tangent, good call. So I can go ahead, I don't have to wait till the end. I can go ahead and flip this square root of 3 right now. Okay. And then, so that makes it so my value is going to be square root of 3 over 3 after I rationalize. Okay? Positive or negative? It's negative. Good. So this is the answer I will want. They're pretty quick, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's going to take some practice, though. And the better you are with this, we're going to be solving some equations that involve these trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent. And being quick on these is going to help you with the last steps on it. Let's do a couple more. I'm going to try to throw you off. Let's do cosecant of pi. Have a discussion with your neighbor about that.
Oh yeah.
Now it's a quadrant angle here, so I'm in my mind, or at least maybe out in the margin, I'm gonna go ahead and label my point right there. And cosecant is going to be the reciprocal of which one? Sine, according to Jonathan, that's sine, right? So sine corresponds to this y value. So I'm wanting to take 1 over that y value. Undefined. Just undefined. Can't do that. Can't divide by 0 yet. All right? We will next year. We will. We will. I am. So getting undefined on some of these is going to happen. All right? 1, 0 and undefined on those. I'll let you play with those in your practice problem. Okay? Oh, I got another one. I'll try to throw you off. Let's do tangent of 3. Sure. Okay. So how do we find it? Do what? Plug in the calculator. It does not have a reference angle. That is one of these nice angles. These are called nice angles. 3 is not a nice angle for some reason. So, yeah. So you said radians on this? So I'm going to hit mode, make sure I'm in radians on it, and I get
0, negative 0.14354654.
just give me 4 decimal places. Anybody confirm that? Awesome, good, love it. All right. So, I can throw you off or not throw you off?
You probably can.
It's secant of 25 degrees. That would be secant of 1. Secant of 25 degrees. You guys find your secant button on your calculator? Oh, Sydney says what? We need to switch our mode back to degrees on this one. Anybody have a secant button? AD, you got one on that fancy thing? Do you really? Nice. Do what? Ooh, close. Secant. Good. Remember, this is just the reciprocal of cosine. So I can just hit 1 divided by that. Survey says 1.1039. Anybody confirm that? 34? 1.034? So we're going to need to use our reciprocal functions if they give me cosecant, secant, or cotangent. Okay. Another way to do this, it's a little bit easier. I could have just in my calculator done cosine of 25 degrees, and then whatever that gives me, you should have a button that either says 1 over x, or it says x to the negative first. If you're using one of my yellow calculators, there's an x to the negative first button on the left side. So you can just hit cosine 25, and then this is a reciprocal button. It will just automatically take the reciprocal of whatever you just found. And it should give you the same thing. Okay? Either way you want to work it, we're good on it. Okay? Let's wrap this up by Monday. Let's have a quiz over all this. There's only so many ways I can ask sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent of those nice angles. So the more of them that you have on the sheet in front of you, the better off you will be.